In the heart of ancient India, a boy named Siddhartha was born, destined to embark on a journey of self-discovery. Amidst the grandeur of the palaces and the serenity of the sacred groves, Siddhartha, the son of a respected Brahmin, grew up. This was a world of rituals and scriptures, a world that Siddhartha was meant to inherit. Yet from a young age, Siddhartha was restless. He was a seeker, always questioning, always probing. The scriptures, the rituals, the fasts and the feasts, they were all a part of his life. Yet he felt a void within, an inexplicable emptiness that the comfort and security of his life couldn't fill. He yearned for something more, something profound, something beyond the material world that he was born into. In his quest for truth, Siddhartha decided to renounce his life of privilege and comfort. He decided to step out of his golden cage, to seek what lay beyond. He sought enlightenment, a state of being that promised liberation from the cycle of birth and death, a state of supreme knowledge and boundless peace. And he was not alone. His dear friend Govinda decided to accompany him. Govinda, who had been Siddhartha's shadow, his confidant, his companion through thick and thin, chose to walk with him on this path of uncertainty. Together, they left their homes, their families, their world, driven by a fervor that was stronger than any worldly bond. Their journey was not easy. It was a path filled with hardships, trials, and tribulations, but they were undeterred. They knew that the road to enlightenment was not a bed of roses. They knew they had to tread the path less traveled, to seek what lay beyond the obvious. And so Siddhartha and Govinda set forth, leaving behind all they knew, stepping into the unknown. They had left the world they knew, to find a world they didn't. They had left their past, to create a new future. A future that held the promise of enlightenment, of liberation, of truth. They were seekers, and they had embarked on the greatest journey there is, the journey within. In the wilderness, Siddhartha and Govinda meet the Samanas, the ascetics, and join them. The Samanas, a group of wandering monks, are a sect committed to a life of strict austerity and self-denial. They seek liberation from the cycle of life and death, aiming to achieve this through extreme ascetic practices. Siddhartha and Govinda, driven by their quest for enlightenment, embrace the life of the Samanas. They adopt the Samanas' ways, casting off all worldly possessions, embracing hunger, pain, and solitude as part of their spiritual journey. The days melt into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. The young men become adept at the practices of the Samanas, mastering their techniques of meditation, fasting, and enduring physical hardship. However, in the depths of his being, Siddhartha starts to harbor doubts. He begins to question if these practices, these rituals, and this path of self-denial are truly leading him towards enlightenment. He contemplates, we learn a lot, we experience a lot, yet we do not reach the goal. We are not wise, we don't understand. We are like children lost in a forest, not knowing the way. The more Siddhartha meditates, fasts, and prays, the more he realizes that asceticism, like the life of luxury he left behind, is but another illusion. It's another game that keeps him entangled in the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, rather than liberating him from it. He realizes that the true wisdom he seeks cannot be taught by rituals, doctrines, or by denying the self. True wisdom, he understands, must be experienced and discovered within oneself. In the end, this realization leads Siddhartha to a profound decision. He decides to leave the Samanas, to leave asceticism behind, and to seek his own path to enlightenment. Govinda, ever faithful, decides to follow him, and so they depart, leaving behind the ascetics, the Samanas, and their practices. In the end, Siddhartha realized the ascetic life was not his path to enlightenment. Our story continues as Siddhartha and Govinda journey forth, their paths unknowingly leading them towards a fateful encounter. Their journey led them to the enlightened one, Gautama Buddha. In the heart of the tranquil forest, where the air was imbued with an ethereal calm, Siddhartha and Govinda discovered the serene figure of Buddha. Radiating an undeniable aura of peace and wisdom, Gautama Buddha, the enlightened one, was a sight to behold. They listened, rapt, as the Buddha spoke of the middle way, the path devoid of extremes, the path leading to enlightenment. His words flowed like a gentle river, carrying profound truths about suffering, and the cessation of suffering. Govinda, in his quest for spiritual liberation, found himself drawn to the Buddha's teachings. He saw in them a path to peace and decided to stay, to become a disciple of this enlightened one, hoping to attain the wisdom and tranquility that Buddha embodied. On the other hand, Siddhartha, although deeply respectful of the Buddha's wisdom, found himself at an impasse. He acknowledged the truth in Buddha's words, but realized that the path to enlightenment could not be taught. It could only be experienced. He understood that every person's journey to enlightenment was unique, a path paved with personal experiences and individual truths. This realization led Siddhartha to make a life-altering decision. A bittersweet parting ensued. Govinda chose to stay, to walk the path laid out by Buddha, while Siddhartha, with a heavy heart but a resolute spirit, decided to continue his journey alone. He chose to seek his own path, to find his own truth. The bond of friendship and shared experiences that had tied them together was now loosened. Siddhartha, alone once more, was ready to explore the world anew. They bid each other farewell, their paths diverging, their destinies calling them towards different horizons. Yet there was no bitterness, no regret, only the acceptance of their individual journeys and the wisdom that their paths may cross again. The enlightened one, Gautama Buddha, watched them leave, his serene gaze filled with understanding and compassion. Siddhartha, alone once more, was ready to explore the world anew. Siddhartha now delved into the material world, immersing himself in love, wealth, and pleasure. He found himself in the company of Kamala, a courtesan who dazzled him with her beauty and sophistication. She became his guide in this world of pleasure, teaching him the art of love. Siddhartha, the ascetic, was now Siddhartha, the lover. Alongside his romantic pursuits, Siddhartha also entered the world of commerce. He was employed by a wealthy merchant named Kamaswami. Under the tutelage of this seasoned businessman, Siddhartha learned the tricks and trades of the material world. He became adept at dealing with money and commodities, and soon he was swimming in wealth himself. Life was luxurious. Siddhartha had all the material comforts one could imagine. He wore the finest silk, ate the most exquisite food, and slept on the softest of beds. Yet, as he delved deeper into this world of material pleasure, he began to feel a sense of unease. His wealth and pleasures, he realized, were transient. They did not offer the eternal peace he sought. He had traded his ascetic robes for a rich man's garments, his simple meals for a king's feast, his peaceful solitude for the clamor of the marketplace. But what had he gained? A fleeting happiness, a superficial satisfaction. The material world was a mirage that promised happiness but delivered only disillusionment. Siddhartha's disillusionment grew with each passing day. He began to see the emptiness of his life. His wealth, his pleasures, they were all meaningless in the grand scheme of things. He felt a void within him, a spiritual void that no amount of money or pleasure could fill. He had tasted the pleasures of the world, he had bathed in the wealth of the world, but his spirit was parched, thirsty for the true essence of life. Siddhartha, the lover, the businessman, was now Siddhartha, the disillusioned. The opulence of life could not fill Siddhartha's spiritual void. Broken and desolate, Siddhartha found himself by a river where he met an old ferryman. This man, Vasudeva, was a simple soul who had lived his life in harmony with the river's ceaseless flow. Unlike the other spiritual teachers Siddhartha encountered on his path, Vasudeva did not preach or profess wisdom. He simply listened, to the river, to Siddhartha, to the world. In the simplicity of the ferryman's life, Siddhartha saw a reflection of the river's wisdom, the wisdom of constant change, of endless flow. He decided to stay with Vasudeva, to learn from him and the river. As he lived by the river, Siddhartha began to understand that wisdom cannot be taught or learned. It can only be lived, experienced, and perceived in one's own unique way. Life by the river was serene, but it was not without its trials. Siddhartha's past came knocking in the form of his son, born of his days in the material world. The boy was restless and defiant, a stark contrast to the tranquility of the river life. Siddhartha, now a father, was faced with the challenge of imparting his newfound wisdom to a young mind unwilling to receive it, a task as daunting as trying to contain the river's flow. But the river, in its infinite wisdom, taught Siddhartha the hardest lesson yet: detachment. Just as the river surrenders itself to the sea, Siddhartha had to let his son go, to find his own path, his own wisdom. It was a painful parting, one that left Siddhartha with a deep understanding of the myriad forms of love and the suffering it brings. Through the years, the river became Siddhartha's greatest teacher. In its ceaseless ebb and flow, Siddhartha saw the essence of life, the cyclical nature of existence, the interplay of opposites, the unity and diversity. He realized that life, like the river, is a journey, not a destination. It is an endless process of becoming and dissolving, of seeking and finding. In the ebb and flow of the river, Siddhartha discovered the essence of life. In the end, Siddhartha, now a ferryman, found the peace he sought. The final chapter of our tale is one of profound understanding, a journey's end that does not signify an end, but rather a new beginning. Siddhartha, the seeker, had become Siddhartha, the ferryman, a man of the world yet not consumed by it. His time by the river had taught him the soothing language of nature, the rhythm of life that ebbs and flows. The river, with its ceaseless movement and change, had become a metaphor for existence itself. One day, an old friend, Govinda, came to visit. Govinda, who had followed Gautama Buddha, was still in search of enlightenment. The sight of his old friend, radiant with serenity, filled him with wonder. Siddhartha, he realized, had found what he himself was still seeking. Siddhartha offered Govinda a slice of his wisdom. He spoke of the river and its lessons. He spoke of the unity of all things, the interdependence of existence. He spoke of pain and joy, beginning and end, all existing together, all being part of the great wheel of life. He tried to convey that enlightenment was not a separate state to be achieved, but a realization of this interconnectedness. It was not a destination, but a perception, a way of seeing things. Siddhartha had learned that wisdom cannot be taught, only experienced. Govinda listened, entranced, yet struggling to understand. Siddhartha urged him to kiss his forehead. As he did, Govinda experienced a vision. He saw life in all its myriad forms, interconnected, fluid, ever-changing, and yet eternally the same. As the vision faded, Govinda was filled with deep reverence. He had glimpsed the wisdom Siddhartha had attained, the peace he had found. He understood at last that the path to enlightenment was not a path at all, but a way of being. Siddhartha had finally found his path, a path that was uniquely his. And in the process, he had revealed to us, the readers, the profound truth of existence, the beauty of interconnectedness, the peace that comes from understanding. Siddhartha's journey was not just about finding enlightenment, but about understanding the importance of personal experience. This epic tale by Hermann Hesse is a testament to the power of self-discovery and the significance of personal experiences as the true source of wisdom. Siddhartha's journey teaches us that wisdom is not found in the teachings of others, no matter how enlightened they may be. It's a reminder that wisdom is not borrowed. It cannot be adopted from someone else's experiences or teachings. It is a unique and personal journey. The story also highlights the interconnectedness of all things. Siddhartha's journey is not solitary. It's influenced by every person he meets, every experience he has, and every place he visits. His journey is a part of the larger fabric of life, intertwined with the journeys of others. Siddhartha's journey teaches us that wisdom is not something to be sought, but something to be discovered within.